Today we have Madhu talking about
My life has been about chosen family. There is absolute permission for not just single women but also single men to adopt. I know my limitations very well.
Hi Madhu.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing today? All right. I would love to welcome Madhu today. She has a very interestingly unique story, and I would love Madhu first for you to introduce yourself to the world. So the stage is yours.
Thank you, Shobhna, for having me here today. To tell you a little bit about me, professionally, I'm an HR professional, extremely passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion. Also, a mental health practitioner. So that's what I do professionally. And personally, I am a mother to a 2-year-old boy called Anurag, and I live in with my mother and with my son.
And you have had a very unique parenting journey when it comes to Anurag. So would you be able to start from the beginning as to how you decided that you even wanted to start a parenting journey?
Sure. So I've always wanted to be a parent. Growing up, I've had a very strong nurturing side, and that's always been at the back of my mind.
Right.
But as everybody does, I mean, I also thought maybe I'd find a life partner and I'll have a baby with that person or whatever. So there was no real aspiration to be different in any way. However, as life went by, I somehow did not find anybody who I would want to spend the rest of my life with. So given that didn't happen for whatever reason, and I'm still open, so
Right.
I'm still looking, I'm still open, all of that. Then I was like, what about my dream to be a parent, my desire to be a parent? Do I want to not meet that? I was like, no, I do want to meet that. So how about me adopting? And I'm a single child. So my life has been about chosen family.
Understood.
Which means that my friends have eventually been my family. Even now they are, even to Anurag, most of his aunts, uncles are very close friends of mine. So that being the case, I was like, let's do adoption. Let's go the adoption way because that's beautiful. That's what I'm also very comfortable with. And luckily, the government and the rules today support that. There is absolute permission for single people, not just single women, but also single men to adopt. And that being the case, sometimes legally things are not permissible.
Right.
Here, that was not the case. So I said, okay. And then there was a journey after that.
Of course.
That included talking to my parents about it, talking to so many people about it. And of course, then Anurag coming in now, and now he's slowly coming to see his own journey and his own story. So that's how it's been.
It's beautiful. The stories that I've heard about how many years of struggle it actually takes. Did it really make sense to wait for 3 years?
At the end of the day, it is important to somewhere, test the real desire of someone. Sometimes one takes these steps saying I'm doing something great or anything like that, but do you really want to be a parent? And are you equipped for it? Are you ready for it? So that 3-year period for me gave me time to think about it in its holistic way. And the same way, the entire process, sort of the validation, the revalidation that one goes through each time, one is obviously sort of being questioned, but if you're reflective enough, you'll also think for yourself, am I ready for this? Is this okay for me? Is this what I really want from life? So that's what it also helps in a way.
It's a very beautiful point, because when you are asked the right questions is where you really think it through. So I think when it comes from the bodies that are they have been through this with multiple parents, and they've been through this with multiple kids, I think they asking the right questions to understand how ready you are, to understand how nurturing you would be, and how open you are for the 3 years. I mean, you're right. We are humans and we have these peaks of desires. And if that desire falls down by any chance, then the whole excitement is not really the right way forward for a child.
Yeah. And I can tell you, for example, from my own experience, through the 3.5 years, I lost my father. And he was a very important part of my life and my journey, of course, but he was also a strong supporter of my wanting to do this. He was my pillar. right? So when I lost him, for that entire about 2 months, I was like, am I ready to do this? Am I ready to do this? And the fact that the answer always came to me saying, yes, I want a baby in my life, I
Right.
want to be a parent, that sort of answered it for me. So when you go through those ups and downs and still the answer is you want
Yes.
to, then it's very clear to you that you want to. The only thing, and here is where the comparison is, and many of us sort of think about that, is
Right.
if we were choosing to be biological parents for whatever reason,
Right.
nobody then goes through any process.
True.
Right. So there is, then the process is completely what you want to do, how much you want to
Right.
introspect, how much you want to
Right.
reflect. The world doesn't put you through a process. So that is where the bit of comparison comes in and says, here I'm not going through this process of 3.5 years of questioning. That
Right.
process is more physical, I would assume, more biological. But this questioning of, are you ready? Are you present?
Yeah, that
What are your
right.
finances? What is the background? Who will raise the child? What support systems you have? Don't come up.
That's a very, very beautiful point. I think most of us, once we become parents, is where this learning begins, and it's a huge hit, because that's where the realizations actually start setting in. Am I really ready? Because once the baby arrives, the world just completely changes. You have so much happening physically, mentally, along with the fact that financially you are not. I mean, yes, of course, you rise to the occasion as it arrives, but I don't think you're always pre-thinking all these aspects before you plan or before you decide to keep the child. So I think there is just so much value in what you just said, that those 3 years actually give you so much of introspection, learnings, reflections, as well as preparation, which is sometimes unfortunately missing when it comes to the whole biological means of having a child. So I think very well, beautifully said. One of the things you said in the beginning, which really, I think, strung a chord there, which I think it's a very beautiful journey of relationships, is choosing your family. So, could you tell me a little bit about your journey of these beautiful chosen families that you have come across, and what made you value that so much more? So,
Yeah. So, I mean, I again think in my life, even these are, while I use the word chosen family, that's how it's been. And the reasons, because when you are a single child, I mean,
right.
what you do is you kind of build bonds around you. So I grew up I was born in Chennai, but then I eventually grew up, a lot of my life was in Delhi partly, and then Mumbai. And my, people who were around me, I had a lot of friends. My parents are very friendly by nature, so they had a lot of friends. So growing up, we were like 3 families in and around the same colony,
Nice.
who were like doing everything together.
Lovely.
So then their, children became my siblings, kind of a thing, and we were not differentiated in that sense. So it all became like one single unit, one single family. Something I really wish Anurag experiences also.
Nice.
Right. So it started like that, Shobhna. And then, I also have a disability, which perhaps is not visible right now, but it is there on my left hand and my left leg. And therefore, a different kind of acceptance came in for me from these friends, these
Right.
people around me, which gave me confidence, which gave me belief. Then eventually we moved to Bombay. I experienced the other side of it. I experienced a little bit of the bullying that happens, the absence of people who understand you or accept you. So then you come to value this a little bit more. And then again in college, you sort of end up building bonds, friends, and they all ended up, a lot of my friends are also either single parent brought up, or they're themselves single children. So then that ended up, you end up sort of like drawing from each other, connecting
Right.
with each other, and so on. And that's sort of just stayed with me all through. I think one of the things, and was a few years, actually now many years back, though, moving from being an HR professional to diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of work meant that I ended up then sort of connecting with a lot of different communities, right? People who have a disability, people from the LGBT community, and a lot of these people sort of again lead lives which are different.
True.
Many of them are, single in the sense of not being married, or many of them have different family structures themselves, and that's again a space where I found a lot of my chosen family. Because again, when you are in a way alone, then you tend to not just attract people and say, okay, this is my professional space, but how do you bring them into your life? And that's now become a reality pretty much, because if I think about it, my cousins are all sitting all over the globe now. Nobody is here practically. So for Anurag, who becomes the mama and who becomes the perima, and who they are the people who are in and
around you, correct?
Right? And now both of us live at Brigade, and we met because the kids are playing,
together, right?
Whatever. So you end up sort of attracting in that sense is how I see it. How welcoming are you? How open are you? Is the question.
True.
So, yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes about the people also, right? I mean, unfortunately, we're brought up in a very, very closed environment. Especially, I think once we move into an urban way of life, I somehow feel that we become far less inclusive, because we become far more nuclear and far more busy, probably. I see that quite a bit, that when we were younger, or when we had a more simplified lifestyle, is where the whole inclusive feel and welcoming feel was more. Versus once you are in a community where everybody is so individually leading parallel lives, that those intersections rarely happen. And on that front, I think the children today bring that intersection for us back. They reintroduce that introduction in our life. So tell me, as a single mother, what was your journey in convincing your close family that adoption is the right way? Because even with couples who are married, they have a huge round of convincing that goes with close-knit families and friends, trying to tell them that this is the path for them. How did you, as a single mother, navigate these questions and challenges that probably came forward to you?
Sure. So I think the first step in my journey was to be convinced myself, right? And I'm saying this only to help anybody who is aspiring to be a single parent, also thinking about it. Is the first step of the journey is you need to figure this out for yourself. Do you really want it? Can you do it? Do you want to do it? And so on. And I think for that, to be able to go for adoption workshops, to be able to meet other adoptive parents, single adoptive parents, that's a journey I took for a while. So I took about, like I said, I pretty much decided I want to be a parent very early on in life. So, that meant that through my late 20s, for example, I started getting on to this process of understanding, going in for adoption workshops, talking to therapists, figuring out my own wanting to do this, right? So I think once that is done, right, then you bring it up to the next, which is the immediate family, which was my parents for me. And when I first brought it up, I mean, they were like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, you're young, find the partner, figure this out. And, adoptive or not, that was not the question. Like, do it with a partner. Then there's a partner and you decide what you want to do, then we'll be there for you. But this whole thing of why single was the first thing. And then I took a step back and I said, they're not asking a wrong question, right? So why not explore, figure out if I can find a partner? So a few years went by like that. I'm explaining this to you because this is how it practically works. I mean, it's not about standing there and giving
it's not a checkbox, right? It's an experience. It's a journey into it. Please.
So then, yes. So then, then again, I went on that journey of finding. Didn't happen. They went with me on it. And then we saw a lot of like different things, to be honest. One, my disability became a factor everywhere. That will you have a normal child? Will you have this? Will you have that? There were so many questions, and I never faced that. Me making more money than the perspective, at least in the arranged marriage space, became like a bottleneck. Me wanting my parents around always became a bottleneck. So there were too many of these that we were encountering, not enjoying the process. So at one point, then again, I went back and I said, hey, let's do this. Anyways, the wait is 3 years. So by then, if I get. Okay. And then we'll go a different route and let's do this. And I think that is when, both of them said, okay. And then again, I took them for counseling also, so that they understand the process and they understand what is this that I'm aspiring to do. I also got a few single adoptive parents to meet with their children, so that they get an idea of what this is. And again, you have to play it according to your parents. My father is a more theoretical, structured person, which is who I am. So he likes all this. My mother is like, just bring the child home and don't do this with me.
Right.
Like one thing here, one thing there. I'm tired of going through this round.
You're oscillating right now.
Yeah, like in the sense, she doesn't like so much theory coming at her as a person, you know, like this, even now, I think, you know, while I will read about parenting, she'll be like, what are you reading? Just go
experience it.
Yeah, experience it. Go with your heart, go with your flow, right? So you also have to like little bit think about how your parents are going to receive this.
Right.
I think somewhere down they said, all right. And that is where, again, having close friends, having people who were ready to write recommendations for me, because there is a process through that. Having somebody who will say, if something happens to you, we will take care of the child. I think
you need a guardian.
You need a godparent or a guardian in place. So I found that support a little bit more within my chosen family, as well as within you know, cousins and things like that, and getting that support then sort of again affirms it for my parents. So it's a little bit of a back and forth journey. It doesn't happen sequentially. As it happens, it all comes together.
Right.
Right. And then going through the validation process, I think all that also again sort of you know,
encourage them to support you further.
And I think even now, for my mother, it's like, does this mean that she will never find a partner and never get married? Because that's her dream.
Correct.
Right? I mean, all of us grow up with dreams for our children. That's her dream.
Right.
And so I keep telling her, and it's also true that I continue to date people and meet people in every which platform that's possible. So I tell her it's not a closed door, at least from my side. If we find someone who's willing to be a father to Anurag, a son to you, and a partner to me, then it's
the right match.
But now that's more important. That's all the more important, right? I mean, now it's not just me being... So keeping that door open has also helped. Through the journey, the important thing to ask yourself is, who are the people who are readily bought into it? And there are going to be some who are readily not going to be. So how do you manage that? So the way I've learned to manage it is to know where to ask, where to discuss, and where to tell. You know, that discretion is important.
This is where I draw the lines.
This is where, so everybody, I am not going to be sitting and opening up everything.
Right.
So to some people, it's like, I've become a parent, Amma has become a party, and Anurag is my child. That's the end of the story. It doesn't have to go beyond that.
Fair enough.
Right? And you have become whatever you've become in relationship, if they are related. So where are you opening up the door? Where are you sort of also managing things? And that's the journey. I think both for me, it will be for Anurag also.
Of course.
So yeah.
So when you met these single parents who were bringing up children that they adopted, what were the challenges that you heard from them, and do they kind of translate into the challenges that you also see today?
The word single by itself, I think that by itself is posing the biggest sort of, in a way, challenge, in a way, whatever that is. That is, you are on this journey as a parent pretty much alone.
True.
Right. Which means I have to be the nurturer. I have to be the provider.
True.
Also. And there are multiple roles that I have to juggle. So for example, you know, we decided to sell our car. It's 15 years old or whatever. Now the car selling process also I am doing entirely. Right. Now somebody else, you know, a friend of mine who is coupled, she told me, couple setup, said, I am never bothered about car selling. I said, okay.
Because the partner takes care of it.
The partner takes care of it. So I said, okay, now I have to do this. So there are many more things to just manage. The schooling is completely my decision. There's so many aspects. And also given the fact that here there is, you know, my mother is in the picture, and she's old and she has her age. Of course, she's stepping up to be almost like a little bit of a co-parent in a way. But there is still that then. You know, you have to take care of her needs also. So there is multiple different things that you then need to juggle, which means that there are two things I have learned. One is there is like nothing called perfection. So you just do it.
Right.
I get today right, or whatever that right is or wrong is, I just get it through and I'm done. So everybody is healthy, everybody is eating, everybody is basically fit. You just move. You
the most important thing that you're looking forward to, right?
My house doesn't look like, you know,
it's messy. No big deal.
So that is, and I think the child does their best in teaching you that themselves only.
Absolutely.
So I don't need anybody else to teach me that,
Right.
single or not, that, but you really learn it.
Right.
And the second is prioritization. The number of things I could put my fingers into earlier, the number of things that I would tend to do, I have to limit it today. When I look at my WhatsApp and I see, I am like, okay, these are the two which have to come in, and the rest
Ignore the rest. Mute.
Yeah, mute. So you tend to do that a little bit more consciously. The third, which I am still learning in this whole process, is self-care, because I have learned that the moment, I mean, it's as simple, even if I look at it from a very selfless place, which, I'm like, the moment I'm irritated, the moment I am frustrated, it is inevitably going to show somewhere. So it's my mother or it's my child. Who else?
Right.
Who else?
The ones who closer, the ones who sense it, absorb it the fastest, right?
Exactly. So then I'm like, okay, it's not serving any purpose, because if I go this direction, there's a fight. If I go that direction, there is something else happening.
Correct. There's a response or a fling or some reaction.
Affected.
Right. Correct.
So I'm like, I better learn how to manage and take care of myself, even if I am not doing it for myself, which is the best reason to anyways do it.
Right.
But even if it is not for me, I need to, because there is one here and one there.
One here and one there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I need to be there.
Right.
So I think self-care, my own self-care, has gone up significantly as a consequence.
I think it's a very wholesome answer that you just gave. Being independent, understanding what it takes to be a single parent, I think is a huge aspect to it, because most of us, even when we're getting into a relationship, because you mentioned this, that you have been on the journey of dating and probably not working out, is a blessing in disguise in a way, because you get to find the right partner with the right intentions.
Yeah,
when you bring forward these factors, and if a person decides to step back because of you earning more, or because of you having a personal situation, or even a child in hand, a person stepping back from that is looking for a very different trajectory in life, and that will someday or the other come forward and be a tiff.
Yeah.
So you really bringing forward what you value, and if the person that you're looking for also values that, is where you come together, right?
If I may just add one more thing, I think you need a village. There's no doubt about that. So single or coupled or whatsoever, there is a village that is needed. So how are you building that village is a question to ask.
Wonderful.
So by nature, I think I am somebody who likes to work, come home, and then do nothing. Okay, so that's that's
how you are. Yes.
So do nothing means I will not go down for a walk also,
Understood.
or meet people. Certainly not. But I've changed that. I've sort of said, okay, now this child needs people, and so we need to have something. So, for example, about 2 weeks back, there was Father's Day, right?
Oh, okay,
yeah. So there were, I've been having conversations around that with the child, whatever, but I called 2-3 of his mamas home, who are parental figures in a way, father-like figures, or father whatever.
Right.
The men in the picture, let's just say.
Honey, absolutely.
Right. So I called them home, and we had a fun evening and things like that. So far in my life, I've never done
that.
Right? I'm like, what is the date or a Sunday evening? Let's meet out if we want to, but why? No, now I'm like, no. We need to. And then you realize how much joy it gives everybody in the picture. It was extremely joyful for me, my mom, of course, for him. There's a bonding so the village, you cannot you cannot tell yourself, I don't need it. Right. You certainly need the village. How you build it, who you build it with, and where are you ready to sort of,
build that connection.
Yeah. Right. And it brings in more joy into. The way I've learned to see it is, it's bringing me joy that otherwise I might have not been just open to, for whatever reason. Right. Sometimes we close ourselves.
True.
So there's a way that it's bringing me great joy.
Right.
And again, if I'm going to sit, and my mother and me were like, oh, what should the menu be? And what should we do? And what should this be? And I said, let's just make one thing, and they will manage. And if they want more, we can just order out. So how do you then simplify that thing for yourself is
because at that moment, I think you're valuing something far bigger, right? It's not about what you bring on the plate. It's about the connections that you're going to be making, and that holds a far more important experience for everybody. And I think, I'm sure the mamas that came forward, your mom, you and Anurag, all of you together had a beautiful Father's Day celebration. And I'm this is it's a very, very important point that you just brought up, because as a single parent, though you play both the roles, eventually when you go into a social setup, there are going to be so many situations where you have a Father's Day and children are making cards, for Father's Day, and there are going to be these expectations, and how that emotionally would be taken by that child is something that I think you're already working towards, because it is going to happen eventually. So I think you're already taking those beautiful steps to encourage Anurag to understand that there is no definite definition of a father figure or a mother figure. It is the relationships that you build. And very frankly, biological parents as well sometimes miss that. I mean, you take it for granted. What I read from you is Anurag taught you how to self-care in a way, right? He brought about the value of being independent and strong. And I think that builds a lot of confidence, self-confidence as well as a person, because you know that you can handle so many challenges, and you will continue doing that. So he helped build that. So self-care, self-confidence, and a huge learning to be, to build that village or that connection that you probably did as a child but forgot during the course of your life, because you did mention that you were building that when you were younger. What else? Maybe something fun that Anurag, as a baby and a child and a toddler, has brought into your life, and it gave you this huge boom moment that, oh my God, I mean, I think as a parent we learn so much, and that realization comes really strongly on your face, right? So could you give me an example of something that might have happened there?
No, so you use the word fun. So let me just say, Anurag, by just the existence of this person, has brought in fun into my life, because he is fun.
Right.
And he is a physically active child, which for whatever reason I didn't have the opportunity to be because of my disability. So I was this, more quiet, sort of sit in one place, draw, paint kind of a child. So I bought him one colors, he looked at it and then he messed it around, and I was like, oh my God, just color it properly, Kanna, color it properly, Kanna.
Within the lines.
What is with it? What is the line? Like, where does the line exist? And then he wants to climb trees. He wants to jump. I mean, there are times when I'm like, what? I mean, so he's really making me see life so differently and do things that I didn't have the opportunity to do. So sometimes I have a little bit of like like I literally have a lump in my throat. It's it's not just fun. I just literally have a lump in my throat. That's one. So
that's a huge one.
Yeah. And then
you learn the value of fear. For the first time.
And I'm a stickler for time. Somebody who's very particular, runs by a schedule. The child comes with no schedule. I'm like, what are you telling me?
You're turning my life upside down. And I'm loving it.
10 o'clock sleep. This, no sugar, no this, no, everything is just like, no, I will do, and you see.
You take a back seat.
So obviously there's a balance between where we put our foot down and where we
of course,
where we sort of let go. But there is this whole thing, and you're like, but life also works this way.
It can, right? It can work in another way, and they just show you that new direction. Right?
And he goes on to things, is fearless to try it. I am not seen, it's like everything there is, a thing of a curiosity, wanting to open, wanting to try. You've seen him with all the scooters other than his own downstairs, one after the other. So I'm like, okay, life works like this. When I think about this is my stuff, I shouldn't pick on somebody else's.
Right.
We should all be sort of in our spaces. There's other ways of working through life, and he really has taught me that. When he was about 1.5 years, and you can see this, the camera might not, he started imitating how my left hand looks.
Understood.
So he started sort of eating the same way with one hand and keeping the other hand like this. He was just learning. So then I had to sort of, tell him that your hands are okay, mine are not, whatever, and have that conversation. I don't know how much went in. But after that, for a while, then I saw him suddenly become a lot more considerate, give me a hand sometimes, recognize I cannot do this, like I cannot climb steps and we're on the second floor. So usually he'll just run down. He said, no, I'll take the lift with you. So I'm seeing those small
those changes.
So also how they're born with natural empathy in a way.
They are. Right.
And in a way I'm saying, because I also see like
no, but I think it's they are so innocently there. I think we start defining children when they do something as right or wrong. They are learning, and they're exploring, and I think they sometimes respond to our reactions. So if we see a child treating another child probably with a disability differently, sometimes it comes on our face as, oh, be careful, and that child, though didn't look at him differently till that moment, looks at our reaction and then looks at this child and says, I'm supposed to also look at him differently. So it's actually about how a parent also translates their ideas, because they're a huge reflection. Every minor thing that you do, your child picks it up like this. And even that eye roll or the sudden, movement, they sense every little thing so beautifully. And I think that's where a parent has to learn to really let the child explore beautifully, because I think the other the children who may be standing there, they don't want to be looked at any differently either. They are right now making a good friend. And they don't want to see that sudden change in the way they are managing each other. I think they will come together and they will figure their equation, and we have to allow them to go through with it. It is your learning curve together. Make that friendship together and you will pick it up. And like you did, he looked at you, he tried to imitate. It was his way of exploring. You guided him that, this is why I do this is why this happens. And it was a realization moment. Oh, I learned something new today. And not just towards you. I'm sure today that consideration is going to be extended to so many other people outside, and not just related to, physical disabilities. It would be about mental disabilities. And there's just so many aspects to life which unfortunately we look at differently, and it could be handled in such a nicer way. And I think you're guiding him really beautifully well. I'm just curious to know that, because obviously you have had a disability that you have very strongly navigated throughout your life, but did it seem like something that you had to really look into more deeply when it came to the adoption process, when it came to being a mother of a child, and you see it as a situation moving forward as well as Anurag is growing up?
Sure.
So
oh, that's a great question, Shobhna, and I'd be happy to talk about it. So, as per the adoption law and process, all people with disability can adopt.
Okay.
So, there is nothing that stops you from adopting. At the same time, like there is a rigorous process of checking everything, I think it's about checking whether the child's going to be okay, safe, whether the person's going to be able to raise the child, and so on and so forth. So that check, irrespective of whether you're a person with disability or not, happens. So somewhere I'm again very comforted that legally there was no barrier per se to start with. Having said that, when you're going through the process, like you are sort of having to prove that financially you're equipped to support, you do need to also then say, okay, physically, how are you going to support? So there are going to be questions in my case which did come up saying, how will you, you're looking at a child between the age of 0 to 2, how are you going to lift the child, what are you going to do, and so on and so forth. And I did find my answers in the way that, one, my mother is there and she's going to support things, but also I am going to have a nanny, I am going to have a support system, and that way. So you do need to practically prove what you're going to do. When the child comes into your life, I think then there is the element that plays up, because there are many times when, for example, I think the initial months, 1.5 years, I was able to lift him very comfortably. Somehow I managed it, and you have these carriers and you do many things to kind of figure that out. Again, like with everything else, a person with disability finds their way of creatively doing it. True. So you sort of figure that out, right? But there is a time when there are some things you cannot do. And how do you, for example, I cannot tie my own shoelaces to begin with. So tying a child's shoelace then becomes even more complicated. And I'm giving you small examples, but there are bigger. If he's jumping up and down, there's no way I can
catch him.
So the way I have learned to deal with it, and again, each individual could deal with it differently, is I know my limitations very well. So if the child is climbing up, I'm not going to jump up and do all kinds of things, because I'm like, tomorrow my back will go for a toss.
True.
And what I can do also, there's going to be challenges, and I don't have that space, to fall ill and, all
of
that.
Course,
you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, let it be. I will get the nanny to support. I will, sort of not come into absolute no-zone places and try and experiment with a baby around. I mean, I've otherwise done it in life of saying, let's get on to a gym and let's do this and let's do that. But here I will not do it. Because one, it can also harm the child.
Right? You have a responsibility, yes, towards yourself as well as towards your baby now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then I'm like, I'm lifting him like this, something happens, all of that. So that's one. The second is this is the physical part of it, the emotional part of it. Because you want to hold the child sometimes. You want to catch the child. Right? And there are those little moments. How do you then make peace with the fact that you are not doing that and it's somebody else? And it's many a times the nanny, many a times the mother. So you have to, somewhere I've learned to tell myself that there are many other things I'm bringing into his life. All of us as parents have some limitation, right? So mine is this, but there are many other things that I bring into his life. And this is not, he is going to have a point where lifting is not going to be the main thing for him, where there are many other aspects which I am completely equipped to support him on. Because all of us then as mothers, we have our own image of what a mother does, how much she holds, how much she lifts, how much she cuddles, how much she this, how much she that. And here there are going to be limitations there. Of course, then you find ways where I put him on the bed and cuddle him. I've learned to tell him I want a hug. I've also learned to tell him when he's uncomfortable, for him to tell me when he's uncomfortable when I'm trying to lift him. True. He says, no touch, amma, don't lift, amma, whatever. So we've tried to establish that.
Good communication.
The good communication helps, because there are moments where I'm going to be like, oh, I feel like,
cuddling you.
And
he's like, no.
And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, this is consent, and I
agree.
And I agree.
Giving you your space that you need.
And maybe it's hurting you in some sense, and somebody else lifting you would perhaps be better at this point in time. But that internal making peace is a difficult thing. I'm not completely there as yet. That's the journey, I think, as a person with disability, you have to sort of
navigate. Two of my children are completely different from each other. One hates cuddling and one loves it too much. Okay, so I think it's also a child driven emotion. If he wants it, the older one would come forward and hug you a bit, but he doesn't like constantly coming and being grabbed on, and especially if you hug him without his consent, he gets very jittery. Like, I don't like this, don't do this. So obviously we understand that this is what he likes, and why should we enforce something that he doesn't enjoy. And then came the second one, who is all over, who is all the time clinging onto you. And that kind of teaches us how individually these personalities actually grow. It's nothing else defines them. It is just purely what they feel from within, and biological or not, I think the journey in a way, I feel begins the day the child arrives in your life.
Yeah.
That moment onwards is where you truly understand each other. I don't think anything that I felt in there translated into anything that I feel outside, because it's been a whole journey of its own.
One thing that comes up for me as you speak about this is the first time I met him. So I was wearing this I still remember, I was wearing this salwar kameez with a very nice pattern or whatever. So he saw me, and this is the first time, he was 3 months old, he saw me and he clung to me. Okay. And so he's clinging, and I am like, till then in my life, no child has ever clung to me. So I was almost like
overwhelmed.
And I was like, wow, And the next day, so this happened papers got signed off, things were okay, everything happened. They all, whoever was seeing, so everything got smooth. The next day, he didn't come to me at all. So I was kind of like, what is going on? Like, what just happened here? And then I realized that then for a few days when I observed, wherever I was wearing sequins and, these kind of patterns is
he was more attracted visually.
Yeah, when I was wearing these plain things, he was like,
too boring.
too boring. And so it's my mother or it's somebody else he'll cling to. And I was like so amused that.
How many times did you get a chance to meet Anurag over the time that he was introduced to you and he came home?
So it's a very simple thing. It is, you don't get a chance to meet initially at all. You need to reserve the child.
Okay.
As per the process. So you get the picture, you get some of the medical reports, and in my case, I had requested for a video call, which did happen. And the idea is, I mean, in the case of a biological child, you don't choose the child in the sense.
Of course.
So here again, it's not about picking, choosing, that kind of stuff. That's sort of not the thing. This is who is assigned to you. Like,
it gets
and
assigned.
If there's a connection, go forward. Else, let it go. And maybe
you'll have another opportunity later. Right.
So that's how it works, right? So it was as simple as that. When I met him, so he was already my baby almost. They were testing me then, and I had to go through a few rounds to sort of earn that for myself.
Understood.
But from my side, he was my child. So that's how it happened.
Nice. So you could have a video call with him and meet him once in person.
No, so I could have a video call, and I had reserved the child, and then I met him when he was already mine. So then there's no, it's not meeting to see or choose. This is my child.
And when you met him, then you could take him back home with you immediately?
Yes.
Okay, lovely.
So when I met him, there were, like I was saying, I was the one who was being sort of tested in a way. And a day or two later,
you were able to bring him back home. Okay. And how did you prepare the house for him?
So that is where again the chosen family comes in, because this is as much as we think prepare and this and that,
it's a lot to think about. And having multiple eyes and ears is always better than just us putting our mind to it.
Yes.
Right.
So I had actually a friend of mine, who came with me to shop for the child, because once I'm talking about when you're going to bring the child home, there are the child's just going to come with you with nothing.
Correct.
Right? So what about diapers? What about it's
the same thing. When you bring your baby back home from the hospital, there's just everything that you have to pre-ready for the child, and the child comes home.
Yes, exactly. Right. So she had done that in the case of her child and all of that. So she had a list. So I said, okay, great. And we went to First Cry and we shopped and we shopped and we shopped, and I saw the bill and I said, really, to bring this kid home, is this what is needed? This swaddle and this and that, and some of these terms I had never heard.
Yeah.
And my mother, who's brought me up years ago, right? She said, what
is all this?
What, this swaddle, we use dupatta. I mean, what is all this that you're bringing in? And there's so much. So all that. We had a car seat organized for him. We had this. So this exigency was also taking a flight. So there was all this, what do you do at every stage? This entire plan. So that by itself, by the end of it, I was exhausted.
Of course.
So then, I was like, okay, now I'm getting the child in. Now the home we'll figure out.
Right.
And that's where my friends stepped up. So they decorated the house. They did whatever it was. All of that. We made some arrangements of things, all of that, so that we're good for the next about 15 days to come. Also, I at that point in time took in an experienced nanny. Anybody who's looking to hire someone, it's better to hire the person a few days before the child comes in, because then that person is able to be a part of the ecosystem and also is able to sort of help you do all of this.
True.
In a way.
Yeah. She's also guiding you. You are also setting expectations, right? And I think it works both ways.
It works both ways. So we
didn't, the child arrives and
yes. So then I was like, look, I can't have the child arrive with just my mom. Friends, everybody has to go back to their own lives and their own spaces. So who else is there? And if that person can come in beforehand, we settle in with the person, because this is also again the first time we've had house help of this nature and kind. It's
Being with you 24/7.
24/7.
Right.
So we said that is an adjustment also.
It is a huge adjustment.
So we got the person 1 week before. We were comfortable. We had become friends. Everything had happened there. So then it became sort of easy, and they were a part of the whole journey. And they were somebody who had already taken care of children before. So then that helps, because sometimes when you are like, what do you do? What do you do? How do you
change a diaper?
Yeah. They're like, we know it. We got this. So all that.
Mission done.
Yeah. The final bit, and I think I've missed this completely, is you need to have a supportive workplace, which I was very lucky there. I was very, very blessed. So I had parental leave for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
And then I sort of decided to go back at 7 months, which they were open to. There was flexibility on all of the different aspects. I had a lot of course, you do need to do your job well. That's one part of the narrative. But flexible workspaces make a lot of difference in the whole journey. And I wish that there was a greater understanding of the fact that biological or adoption, in both cases, parental leave is important.
Very true.
Because in the case of adoption, it's also about bonding with the baby, the family bonding with the baby,
the acceptance phase on both sides.
Yeah, and if it's an older child,
it's even more difficult. Right.
It's all the more required. So sometimes when our law says that less than 3 months you have. Less than 3 months child, you have adoptive leave of 3 months available. I'd say we need a lot more, because especially if it's an older child, then the child is still warming up to you at so many levels. There's so much more bonding time needed. So I anyways think irrespective, parental leave is important, and after that the flexibility to get back to work in different forms. I started getting back with 2 days a week, then 3 days a week, then 5 days a week, then remote for some time, then, traveling, juggling. So everything was opened up slowly, and that helped tremendously.
All right, Madhu. Now we're going to move to a slightly fun segment. It's called the rapid fire round. In front of you, there is this app. That app will have a lot of numbers that will pop up the moment you hit draw. Every time a number pops up, I have some relevant questions here, and I will ask you the question, and you should very quickly and very instantly from your heart try to answer.
Will do.
All right, let's begin.
Yes. Oh.
The moment you were caught red-handed by your child breaking your own rule.
I will tell him, if something's dropped on the floor, you must not eat it.
Okay.
But I am by nature like, everything gets dropped on the floor all the time. So I'm like, if it's half a second, I can eat it.
The half-second rule.
And I don't think he's like, what are you saying to me?
He just told me not to do that.
So that's one which happens regularly.
A toy you bought for the child inside you more than the one outside.
So colors and, it's not a toy really, but the colors, drawing book, book by itself, paint
within the lines.
All the whatever little craft was all for
the sitting games.
The musical drums. I mean, that's the other thing. One small little thing, hoping the child will love to play and listen to the music, and he just started operating it in a different way. And I said, oh my God, okay.
In my rare moments of self-time, I secretly escape
to actually go to have a cup of coffee.
Peacefully.
Can you imagine? Yeah. And we are a South Indian house, and we get excellent filter coffee at home, and yet somehow Coffee Brewery or Masala Chai or one of these places is a lot more
peace and self-time.
Yeah. So I literally half an hour every day, I have to go and sit there, and they're like, oh, she's such a regular customer. I mean, she doesn't miss a day. So, yeah.
Okay, which song from your child's playlist now runs on an endless loop in your head?
So this mulberry bush, getting him to brush is an ordeal. So I had started that because this is the way we brush our teeth, right? So I'm like, this is the way we brush our teeth, and it's just like all the time in my head now.
A bizarre park treasure your child declared is too special to throw.
Mud.
Oh, that's the most unique one I've heard. Okay. One worst habit that your child picked up from you.
The mobile phone.
The mobile phone.
Yes. So, I mean, there is a no screen rule kind of thing.
Right.
And so, I've learned to keep my mobile phone away and look at it and all of that very infrequently. But you know how we work, right?
All our work is actually on the phone these days.
Right? So, there is a tendency. And which is why a few days back when he came up to me and he said, order chocolate and things like that, he was like, order chocolate, order curd. And I'm like,
order Swiggy it.
Yeah, next is Swiggy only. That's only left. I think, So I was like, at 2, my goodness. So he is really watching what I do on the phone also.
What's the one parenting task you love to delegate?
Diapers. If I was given the choice, I haven't been given, but potty training also. There's a lot of shit, yeah, in a very literal sense.
Well said. Your most effective weapon against toddler tantrums?
So I'm still absolutely just figuring this out.
So far,
distraction is what I have seen works quite effectively. You change the whole thing, and
Mom, what about this? No, baby, what about that?
and that's the deal, right? Like whatever. I mean, I also practice as a mental health professional, a counselor.
Right.
So there's this whole thing of sit and talk to the child and all of those things. And I started doing that very early, and I continue to in spaces. But my mother is like, he's throwing a tantrum, you're sitting and talking to him. What's going on here? So it's not working. I mean, it's practically not working.
You spend the last 15 minutes talking and he's still talking about it.
Distract. I mean, what is wrong with you? So I'm like, we must handle it. We must allow space for emotion. My mom is like, my emotions are rising. Just distract.
Okay, so what's the one thing you loved carrying in your handbag before you became a mom, but had to sacrifice for wipes and snacks?
So let me be candid.
Yes.
I carry my little bag and then I carry the bag also.
I carry 2 bags.
There is no sort of moving away. But I forget a lot of things.
Okay.
I forget the comb. I forget things like that. I just sort of get the basics, the key and the phone and the this. So, yeah.
The essentials are in.
Because of my memory, I think now the bag's lighter.
What's the one thing you thought you would totally do different as a parent, but ended up doing just the same?
This is a good one. I think I thought I will never scold the child. Like never. I will always have conversations. I will always make space. I will always... you come with these things.
Pre-notions.
Yeah, and in my case, my dad was like that. So he was also this conversation-led, let's give you the freedom thing, talk.
But you used to listen.
Yeah.
That's the catch.
So that's practical.
Right.
But when the child is jumping up and down and you are like, how does this child come down? Like, what do we do here? Other than say, get out of that place.
In a strong voice that he would listen to.
Yeah. You don't pretty much sort of... so the only thing is I try and see I'm not like... you're
not alone.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you're not alone.
So that myth or whatever is busted, that you can always be calm and composed and sort of like not getting excited, and it's quite the other way around. It's just about times when I'm able to be like Karna and times when I'm like Karna.
So Madhu, this has been really wonderful, and I had a lot of fun having you here and learning so much from you, your journey. It's been very, very motivating and inspiring. So thank you so much for taking out the time and being here. And like every rapid fire round has a hamper.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you also receive it with, it's a very tiny thing. But so this is actually a herbal powder, which I have made at home. And it is very good for your skin. I call it the golden glow.
That's so much better than coffee at Coffee Brewery. Next time I want to do self-care.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming here.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I had so much fun too. And it's so, I mean, it's very easy to talk to you. So that's lovely. And for me, this is the first time I'm talking about this journey of mine so much, and enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shobhna, and I'm the founder of ZenMums.org, a platform dedicated to the holistic wellness of women and mothers of all ages and stages.